Hello everyone, welcome back to the pit. This is a special, particular, it's not an episode of Talk Bolt Action per se. First of all, it's a live stream. I think this is just the second, yes it is the second live stream I have ever done for this channel. And you are going to ask me, but why a live stream today? Because I feel that for this, at least for this particular occasion, a live stream could be a good way to explain what I am up to. Namely, today we will be talking about a scenario, a custom scenario, which we nicknamed Operation Weasel. And when I say we, of course, I mean me and my buddies at Freely War Games that are helping me devise and polish and playtest. Keep in mind this word, playtest, hint hint, War Games, playtest your stuff. It's important. You'll be surprised with how many errors, mistakes, how many changes you will make to your products if you playtest carefully enough. So again, this all started when during one of the game days at our local game store. It was supposed to be, usually in this kind of events, there is around 10 of us, give or take. In this particular occasion, there were just 4 of us, and we could have just played 2 games, 2 tables, usual stuff, 1,000 points, whatever. But I gave the input, so to speak, to try and do something different. Because let's be honest, one of the, at least this is my opinion, of course, one of the coolest things of bolt action is the way that it allows you to really become invested in things as they go on, and there are so many of which that I call cinematic moments, like the desperate rally, the charge, you know what I mean. If you played enough games, you know that there are in almost every game there are one or more of these moments where things just just happen in a very very cool way. And I think that narrative scenarios like this one, because Operation Weasel is a story-driven scenario, so you can stop watching immediately if you are looking for something competitive. It's a scenario meant to be fun and engaging and relaxing and tense at the same time. And again, we planned it so that technically it can be played between 2 and up to 4 players. So you can play in two people, 3 people, 4 people even, because there are 2 tables involved that interact with each other. So it's important to follow what happens on both tables. But before getting into the thick of things and the real meat and potato of the video, let me just paint a little picture for you. Think of this as the introduction for this scenario. Close your eyes and imagine it's June the 2nd of 1944. A small reconnaissance plane is flying over Normandy. On board, there's a high-ranking Allied general or high-ranking officer who is doing, one last check in the area that in just a few days will be the setting for Operation Overlord. When suddenly this small scout plane gets downed by a lone night fighter. So the plane crashes on the ground. A small search party is dispatched by the Germans, who luckily have a very, very small, it's not a fortified camp, it's just a very small encampment, basically, which was put, just in a couple of days because the Germans had captured some partisans, and they needed a place to keep them in before transferring them to other locations. And so from this camp, a patrol reaches the site where the small plane has been shut down, and they find the American or UK, it's indifferent, the high-ranking officer. So he's still alive, wounded, possibly, probably, but still alive. And so they immediately they capture him, of course. Plus, on board, on the very same plane, there are maps, notes. They have top secret written all over them. And so those Germans, they are just a small garrison. They realize they might have something very, very important on their hand. So they return to their camp and immediately send a radio message to their headquarters that they have a prisoner, a high-ranking prisoner, and they have some top secret documents on their hands. So the HQ is immediately, startled and, all right, don't worry. You keep the guy locked up, ensure that nothing happens to him. We will send someone to fetch him. We will bring him back to headquarters so we can interrogate him. We can inspect those maps, those documents, and we will send someone as soon as possible. Just wait as soon as we can arrange something. At the very same time, somewhere in London, news reach the Allied command about the plane. Actually, probably there are some partisans that send word that there actually is a survivor on the wreckage of the plane, and this man is now imprisoned in this small concentration camp. the Allied High Command is terrified because they know that the information that the officer has and the documentation that was on board of the plane was critical for the success of Operation Overlord. And if this information is extracted from the officer, it could jeopardy the whole D-Day. So, in a panic, they organize to transport planes, and they basically send whatever team they can scrounge with, like within 1 hour of hearing the news. So 2 transport planes immediately leave for Normandy. On board, there are only elite troops. Luckily, they had somewhat of an abundance of elite troops laying around, of course, in preparation of the D-Day. So they have some U.S. paratroopers. They also have some British commandos or paratroopers, and so they send 2 teams to France, and they have one and just one mission. They must recover the Allied officer, and they must ensure that he returns safely to the United Kingdom. There will be another small plane to carry back this VAP, but again, time is of the essence. They have less than a day. The operation will be conducted at nighttime to ensure maximum surprise, and again, because there is no time to lose. And so these two transport planes reach Normandy, and they drop their cargo. The elite troops are divided into 2 distinct contingents. The first group, their task is to assault the enemy camp, sneak in, free the prisoner, and extract him and send him back to UK. The other team, the second team, their mission is to provide a sort of blockade over the only real good road that leads eventually to the small concentration camp, and it's the only road from where German reinforcements could come. And so Operation Weasel is the story of this mission, fought between Allies and Germans, but it can be very, very easily adapted for any mix of troops. You could have, I don't know, yes, someone was already there. Don't spoil. Be careful. And so you could play, for example, you could have a Japanese concentration camp and U.S. Marines trying to storm it. Whatever. It's indifferent. We played that with British, Americans, and the Germans. So this is the setting. This is the big picture. And now let's start having a look at what really, really goes on in the missions. So this one, and this one, these are the maps that more or less represent the two tables. The first table is the concentration camp. We played it on a square table, on a 4x4 square table. You can play it on a 6x4. It doesn't change too much. We will see later on what matters for this particular scenario. You have some woods. You have a fence, a link fence surrounding this small camp. 4 main buildings. A small parking lot, a small observation tower, and basically this is what's most important. On the second table, we are on the outskirts of a very, very small village. Again, you have 2 woods. This is a hill. These are wet fields. These are homes, a small square. Some ruins. We used a granary, as we will see, but you can substitute this for whatever ruin you have. These are the 2 tables. Now, before moving on, let me tell you some of the rules. Now, we still haven't finished 100% of the playtesting, because this scenario has been tried 3 or 4 times thus far. Every time we add a little something, we change something, we see if it works or not. So it's a process. And in this video, I want to make you part of the process so that you can follow the story, the scenario as it is developed. Before moving on, keep in mind that technically you can play these 2 tables as 2 separate tables, independent from one another, without having them interact. There is no problem. You can do that. In my opinion, it's way, way funnier if you do things as we decided to make them. So let's take a look at some of the rules, and then I'll take you through our latest after action report, so to speak, so you can have a real idea of what I'm talking about. So, the rules. Table 1, nicknamed the prison Operation Weasel. Forces on the field. The Allies have 500 points of paratroopers or commanders. All have to be veterans. They will have a single rifle platoon composed only by a single platoon commander plus infantry squads. A further obligation is that all Allied troops have to take anti-tank grenades. So you had 2 points to the cost of the unit of any single man. That represents all the equipment for cutting wires and everything, and possibly even some real anti-tank grenades. They could be used later on. Plus, the Allies they don't have it at the beginning, but the scenario implies the presence of 7 inexperienced partisans. We consider them armed with rifles that begin the game as German prisoners. These guys are the reason why the camp was put up in the first place. These are the Allied forces. The Germans have 4 patrols of 5 inexperienced men, all armed with rifles, and 2 patrols of guards. They are regular, and they are also armed with rifles. Plus, they have a singular regular sniper with a sniper rifle. Again, another thing I have to say before I go on: these scenarios are not meant to be balanced within the single table. So table 1, the prison, in this scenario the attackers, the allies, have the advantage. You already see they have more troops. Not more troops, but they sure have way better troops. The Germans have very little. This is done on purpose because, again, what we want to do is to tell a story. And usually, if you think of movies or of any sort of media, it's not necessarily balanced. Most of the times, the better tales are of underdogs, of battles that are not fought on the same term. So don't be bothered by the fact that these battles are not balanced point-wise. You have to think of them as if you were watching a movie. So in this movie, we have this elite force that is trying to storm a camp. Again, keep in mind that this camp was not meant to be a fortified camp. It's just something that was put up in a very short time. It wasn't meant to last long, so it was very not durable. At the beginning of the game, the German player secretly chooses in which barrack, because remember we have 4 barracks, and the German player has to indicate and write down or whatever. In one building there is the VIP. In one building there are the partisans, the other prisoners, and the other 2 buildings are occupied by sleeping guards. So every time you play, the scenario can change. The Allied player will never know in advance where the VIP is hiding, because remember, the sole objective of this mission is to extract the VIP. The VIP is the only thing that matters. Nothing else matters. And time, as we will see, is of the essence. So, the German player chooses what is where. Of the 4 patrols, 1 must be deployed inside the compound, the other 3 outside of it, within more than 12 inches apart from one another. The mission is fought at night time, so outside the prison there is only, so outside of the fence here, view is limited to 6 inches. It's very dark. Inside the perimeter, the radius is 12 inches, because there is some lights here and there. Limit 12 inches. The patrols outside the fence, they are spotted from 9 inches, because as all patrolmen are wont to do, they are smoking cigarettes, so they can be seen from 9 inches away rather than 6. The sniper on the tower, he has a rifle with optics, which gives him a 18 inches radius of view, but the sniper is only active after the alarm is eventually triggered. When there is no alarm, he doesn't act at all. When he starts becoming active, he will shoot like a sniper, so he has a -1 to hit because there is no spotter beside him. For this scenario again, we consider him to have no minimum range for the use of optics, but he cannot target the VIP should he escape. They are under strict orders. The VIP must not be armed. At the beginning of the game, only the German order dice in the bag are those of the patrols. So Germans start with 4 order dice for the 4 patrols. The Allies start with how many order dice they can afford with the troop they choose to bring to the table. Usually it's like 4 dice for them as well, because all of the times we tried that, the Allied player brought three combat units plus the HQ. But regardless, it doesn't matter. An alerted patrol, when their dice is pulled, moves 3 inches. But before moving it, the 2 players have to roll a dice. Whoever scores the highest decides the direction the patrol will be moving for that turn. In case of a tie, we give the advantage to the German player. So they basically strut around the place, wandering aimlessly, chatting and all of that. The attackers can only enter the compound by punching a hole in one of the nets. In order to do this, they have to receive a down order and spend the whole next turn, the whole turn, doing nothing else. So they are cutting the fences and so on. If during whatever turn a patrol ends up within 6 inches of an enemy unit, the alarm is raised, and from there on all patrols will act as normal. So the German player controls all their movement, their shooting normally. From the next turn on, the order dice for the sniper and the order dice for the 2 guard units is put inside the bag as well. The guards, once they exit the barracks, they won't be at full strength, so they won't be at full necessarily at 10 men, because it's night, they are sleeping, so someone may not hear the alarm, or they might be too slow to react, they can't find their weapon, whatever. When the 2 guard units are awakened, so to speak, the German player rolls a d3 plus 3 or 4, as we will see later, to see how many troopers are actually active from there on. So it's random. If a patrol is charged, it cannot react by shooting at the attackers. They are absolutely surprised. If all men in the patrol are eliminated in the first combat round, we assume that the attackers have silenced them without making too much noise. So the alarm does not go off. On the other hand, if even a single guard, a single patrolman survives the first round, the alarm is immediately raised. Again, from the next turn onwards. Alright. If an attacking unit manages to enter the compound and they run inside one of the buildings, remember the attackers, let me put this once again, so the attackers can enter from almost any point in the fence outside, but they will not know in advance where is the VIP, where are the guards, and they don't even know that there are some prisoners, some civilian prisoners laying around. So they basically have to rush in blind. If they find the VIP, that is great. VIP is secured. Now they can focus on extracting him, as we will see later on. If they do enter a guard's barracks, again, they have to fight a round of close combat. In this case, the defenders are wounded on a 3+, despite the fact that they are regular, because, you know, they are surprised, so they aren't fully ready to fight. If the defenders win, however unlikely that is, the alarm is triggered automatically. Otherwise, the alarm is given on a 4+, you know, due to the ruckus, the confusion, the noise, and everything, the screaming of the dead. Once the VIP is freed, so once an allied unit enters with the usual run order inside of the building that actually contains said VIP, he must be taken away on the Kugelwagen, which is, you know, handily parked right outside. Remember, this is a Kugelwagen, this is an Opel Blitz, this is an Anomag, or vice versa, it doesn't matter. So 2 transport vehicles, basically, and 1 little Kugelwagen. So the VIP needs to escape along with 2 men from the unit that freed him. They will work as an escort of a kind. One will be a driver, and the other will have to, you know, to keep an eye on the VIP, on the surrounding, etc. In this case, you can detach the 2 soldiers from the unit, even if it's not usually allowed in the rules. It doesn't care. It's a custom scenario. We make up the rules as we see fit. So, as usual, you board the vehicles with a run order. The next round, the vehicle does the maneuvering, and the next round, the vehicle will leave the table. Of course, the table can only be exited via the main road that leads in the encampment. So 1 turn for maneuvering, and the other turn the vehicle goes out. This goes for every vehicle inside the camp. So you board a vehicle, etc., etc. After a vehicle has left the table, you have to count a single whole turn, as we call traveling, and from there on you can begin rolling for extraction. We will see the rules for extraction later on. Then, if, and it usually happens, the defenders are all killed, so all guards, all patrols, and the lone sniper, we stop keeping tracks of the turns. We consider that the camp is conquered, so the attackers are throwing caution to the wind, and basically after 2 turns, all vehicles are considered to be outside of the camp, regardless of the actual position of the models, even if they were on the other side of the camp. So even, if you had 1 unit here, 1 unit here, 1 unit here, if all the Germans are dead after 2 turns, all of the allies are considered to be on board of the vehicles and outside of the camp. Regardless of position. Again, there is this added traveling turn to be added, and from the turn following the travel, you can begin rolling for extraction, as we already said. And in addition, the transport vehicle, so the Animag and or the Opel Blitz, actually reach table number 2, where they can add, bring some reinforcements to the fray, because the VIP is on its way. He needs to reach the transport plane, and all other help is sent to the other tables to help the defenders, to help with the ambush. Again, some special rules. Transport vehicles have no transport limits in this scenario, so if the attacker wants, everyone can board the Animag, riding along it inside. It doesn't matter. It's an emergency. We do not care about transport limits. Of course, they can carry the freed prisoners with them. I didn't mention it. Of course, should the attackers enter the building where the prisoners are kept, the partisans are kept, we will consider them as an inexperienced unit armed with rifles or something else they can scrounge, basically on fortune. So consider them armed with the rifles, just an inexperienced bunch with the rifles. Nothing more, nothing less. It doesn't change too much, but it's just that for fun, basically. Another limitation: the allies can bring in troops from any table edge they want, except the side of the prison entrance, because we consider that there's a beacon there illuminating things, and they do not want to risk their action to be spotted too early. So basically, attackers can enter from this side, or this side. They cannot move on this side until the alarm is raised, because on the tower there is a spotlight, that illuminates things on and on and on and on and on. So they cannot enter from here. What else? In the woods. So in the woods here, allied troops are spotted only if the guards, the patrols, reach 3 inches of them, because of course it's way harder to spot a unit that is hiding inside of a woods. The snap to action for the allied commander has a range of 3 inches rather than 6 until the alarm has been given, because he has to rely on hand signals, because he cannot risk telling his position too early. And the snap to action cannot be given for the action of cutting actually the fence. So when the unit receives the down order to cut an entrance in the fence, you cannot use the snap to for that. Another thing, vehicles cannot be destroyed by fire in this scenario, because otherwise it would make too much sense for things to blow up. The rule is okay on overall, but in this scenario we assume that all bullets ricochet on the transports. Alright, so as you already said, after a full turn of traveling, transports along with the surviving troops, of course you have to keep track of which troops are on which transport if you want to split your units between the 2 available transports. They enter from the east table edge in table number 2, because you can think of this as the camp being somewhere in this area, probably a little far away, but more or less in this direction. So while the VIP tries to make a run for it, all, extra attackers, so to speak, they will rush in this direction to try and help their comrades. Okay. So another thing that we add, the Hanomag is considered to be equipped with a front MMG as usual. It can be used for firing as long as at least one squad remains on board of the vehicle to act basically as their crewman. The Opel Blitz is unarmed, and again, it can march. You can drive it as long as there's a unit inside, because again they work as the crew. If you decide to disembark with all troops, the transport cannot move anymore. If the attackers in Table 1 decide to open fire when the alarm is not yet active, of course, it goes off immediately. So they don't want to risk by charging the guards or whatever. If by any reason they decide to open fire, first they shoot and then alarm is raised. One last rule: the allied player, the attacker, cannot interact with the fences on turns 1 and 2. This means that ideally during the scenario setup, the perimeter of the concentration camp should be at least 12 inches and a smidget away from the edge of the table. If you cannot manage that, it's not always possible. Just consider it that you cannot interact with the fence in round 1 or 2, because on the first round you come in, second round you actually get to the fence, and it's on turn 3 that you can give the down order to open a hole, to punch a hole in the fence. All right, extraction, the real meat and potato of the scenario. So we mentioned already many times about this traveling turn. After this turn, the allied player rolls a single die at the beginning of each subsequent turn. On the first turn, he succeeds with a natural 6. Second turn, again on a 6. Then rolls start to get lower. By the way, I forgot this. So basically every 2 turns, the required roll gets lowered by 1. So turn 1 and 2, 6 plus, turn 3 and 4, 5 plus, 4 plus, etc., etc. You get the idea, until eventually they automatically succeed. If the roll for extraction succeeds before German reinforcements have arrived, as we will see, the game, the whole scenario, ends with an Allied victory. You can picture this as the Allied general reaching the airplane and flying off towards safety. Now, again, this is a work in progress. I mentioned it in the beginning. As you see, these are just notes that I have been passing along with other members of Friuli War Games, where we exchange, ideas. What do you think? Is this balanced? Is this not? For example, for the next playtest, we will consider adding these extra rules. So once the down order to open the fence is executed, roll a d6 with a result of 1, the unit makes some noise, and the alarm is triggered. Or another possible variation, I mentioned it before, the number of the guards to be raised to d6 plus 4 rather than d6 plus 3 is just 1 extra man, doesn't change things too much, but it makes a little more sense if you consider that maximum unit size is of 10 men, and some changes that I rephrased for clarity. I guess this is something internos, so to speak. Again, keep in mind that this is basically a I can find the words, like a batch. It's like, this document gets improved, worked on every time we play, we test something new, and so it's a way for us to work on the scenario itself. Then we have finally table number 2, Operation Brooklyn. This one. Okay. Basically, in this scenario, you have the German reinforcements, or actually the troops that have been tasked with the retrieval of the VIP. They enter from this table edge, and their objective is to exit from the opposite table edge in order to basically recapture the enemy general, while the second contingent of Americans, because we play them as US paratroopers, but again the defenders, their only task is to prevent vehicles from reaching the opposite table edge. And now let's see what rules are in effect. Forces on the field, table number 2. The allies, so the defenders, have 750 points they have to spend on paratroopers. They can have 1 rifle platoon, and then either 1 heavy weapon platoon, or a 2nd rifle platoon. This is something else that we are testing. So far we just work with 2 rifle platoons. We will make yet another playtest with a heavy weapon platoon. This might be too much. I'm already saying this to you, so be careful. No observers. There is no time to bring observers. All of the defender troops must be veterans. And, allow me this small digression. If you followed any of my videos, any of my talk bolt action videos, especially the latest ones, you will remember that, I kind of dislike the way World Games is pushing the game, in the sense that veterans in 3rd edition are really, really, really very strong. But despite this, in this scenario, it makes perfect sense to me that, all troops sent on this very, very dangerous mission would be veterans. It's thematic, it's narrative, so welcome veterans. On the other hand, the Germans, the attackers, have 1250 points. They must build 1 recce platoon and 1 armored platoon. Again, no observers. All vehicles must be at least regular. As you can see, no rifle platoon, because again, time is of the essence for the Germans as well, so they cannot allow themselves to have foot sloggers. So they basically, the high command just brought some mechanized / motorized / armored company. So basically everything that had tracks or wheels. No time for infantrymen. Of course, besides infantrymen, not loaded on transports. So, again, no observers, there is no time, there are no artillery nearby to be warned, nothing of the sorts. Just pure grit. The defenders can deploy anywhere on the table they desire. The defenders may choose to start with any of their troops in ambush, because ambushing is what they are actually trying to do, of course. The defenders can also place 2 sections of barbed wire wherever they want to slow down the German advance. Of course, this is meant to be an obstacle for wheeled vehicles, because it acts as an obstacle. It cannot be crossed by wheeled vehicles, only by tracked vehicles, which are slower than wheeled vehicles. It's done on purpose, of course. So the attackers enter from the west side of the table on turn 1 by compulsorily moving the column down the road with an advanced order. Their movement will not be doubled for a distance that is equal to the speed of the lowest vehicle belonging to the column, because of course the column goes only as fast as its slowest member, as all marching columns are wont to be, if you want to keep the column close, which is what German High Command wants to do at the beginning of the game. Whatever unit cannot deploy on turn 1 will enter on subsequent turns. So imagine this: you have this column of vehicles that's traveling on the road that will eventually lead to the small camp here. They do not know that they will be ambushed, so they keep a steady pace, slow and steady pace. So whatever units can enter the table, usually it will be 9 inches, so it's like 3 or 4 vehicles max. They enter on turn 1, on turn 2, the rest enters. Again, as long as the defenders do not fire, the Germans can only advance without firing. They do not know the defenders are there. As long as the alarm has not been triggered, i.e. as long as the defenders unit have not been seen and or have not opened fire on the attackers yet, the German column advances together using a single order dice. Again, try to imagine the column moving as a single unit, basically. All other order dice will be added to the bag once the ambush is sprung. Visibility on table number 2 is equal to 12 inches, plus modifiers given by night fighting that you can find in the main bolt action rulebook. We make a single exception that we tested and we deemed necessary. As long as the alarm is not given, you do not apply the +6 visibility modifier for advancing troops, because we assume they just sneak silently on the field, should they feel the need to actually move and not just wait in ambush. The German goal is to get as many manned vehicles or transports out of the opposite side of the table as quickly as possible with a run or advance order. Again, this is very important. They can either be combat vehicles or transport vehicles, but transport vehicles count only if there's troops on them. So empty transports do not count. Very, very important. After a full turn on the road, that means as it was in table number 1, so for example, if in turn 9, let's see, a German tank exits the table, they spend the whole of turn 8 on the road, and then from turn 9 they can start looking for the VIP. We will look later on what means looking for the VIP. Now, for example, these are rules that we added the last time we play tested the scenario. Recce rule is not usable until the ambush is triggered, of course, because it only triggers when something is fired at the vehicle. In addition, the recce rule cannot be used to get the vehicle off the table in this scenario. Usually, as per the main bolt action rulebook, you are allowed to exit the table if the mission warrants it on a recce move. For this scenario, we do not allow that, so we have to exit on your own, so to speak. Okay, all the other conditions for the rule apply as normal. The alarm, so once the alarm is raised on table number 2, so once the ambush is sprung and or an attacking model is spotted, the German player can act normally with their units. They can break formation, they can act basically as normal. This alert is applied only on the turn following the sighting of the enemy and or the springing of the ambush. So, to put it simply, if on turn 2 the ambush is sprung, the Germans move and act normally from turn 3 onwards. So, looking for the VIP. What is the German goal? After the on-the-road turn, the German player starts rolling a dice immediately after the Allied player has made their extraction roll. So, if the American or the Allied player in table 1 has exited has extracted successfully the VIP from the table, they start rolling on this. No, this is alright, this is correct as well. So they start rolling on this table immediately after the Allied has rolled. If he hasn't succeeded, the German player makes his roll. If the Allied have failed to extract the VIP and the German succeed in their roll, it means they captured again the VIP and the scenario ends with a German victory. So, again, the Allies have this very, very small table they roll on. For the Germans, things work slightly differently. For every single, from the time a single vehicle is out, the German rolls a die and they succeed only on a 6+. No modifiers apply of any sort. Just straight and flat 6+. But should more than one vehicle exit from the table edge, so from this table edge, any additional vehicle that manages to get out allows the German player to add 1 to the capture roll. Just imagine this as, if there's a single vehicle searching for the VIP, they have not many chances of getting meaning. If there are more vehicles, the more vehicles there are, the higher the chances. Okay? So, with a 6+, the VIP is captured again if he has not escaped in the same turn, and the game ends with a German victory. The German player gets a +1 bonus to the roll for each vehicle besides the first one participating in the search. It's only logical. Should one or more German vehicles leave the table before the VIP escape from table 1, again we make them make the same roll. If they succeed, basically it means they arrive on the other table before the VIP is extracted, but in any case they still roll. So from table 2 the Germans do not arrive on table 1, they just keep rolling fishing for that 6+. Imagine that, you know, once they survive the first ambush, the vehicle will not be running at full speed because they will be afraid of more ambushes and so on. So you just start rolling fishing for that 6+. Now we have some little more modifiers to consider. I won't go into that. So this is the gist of the scenario. Now, the last part of the video. I'm going to give you a visual impression of what the scenario is about. So, this is our example of the prison camp. You see the 1, 2, 3, 4 buildings, the tower. This is the camp entrance. Then you have some stuff inside the camp. We have a toilet, you know, very, very useful. You can basically put inside whatever you think it fits. It doesn't really matter. We had some spare barbed wire around, and these are the chain link fences. Note that on purpose we made the scenario so that not in all parts of the perimeter there is a fence to kind of limit the options for the attackers. Feel free to do the same, or to be everything to be surrounded by fences. It shouldn't change things too much. Of course, we put some of the buildings close to the edge of the perimeter. Needless to say, attackers cannot enter from the buildings. If you have enough chain links, you can physically move the buildings inside of the perimeter, but otherwise you just consider that the attackers cannot enter directly from a building. Again, this is another look of the camp. Another look. Consider that we will see them in later pictures. Here is the Kübelwagen, and here are the other two transport vehicles. View from above. Again, consider this to be beyond 12 inches, so as to not allow the attackers to immediately move into base contact with the fence. Again, if you do not have enough room, just make it so that on turn 1 attackers cannot reach the fence, the perimeter. This is what we used on our last playtest for table number 2. Again, we see the large woods here, other woods here and here, some houses, granary. It can be a ruin, it's the same. Wheat fields, more ruins, and a hill, and a single road that stretches throughout the whole table. Here you can probably see it better from another angle. Yep. In this case, this is where the defender chose to put their barbed wire sections to end the advance. These are the troops, the German troops for table 1. 1, 2, 3, 4 units of patrolmen, inexperienced patrolmen. The 2 guard units, these are the regular guardsmen, so to speak, and the lone sniper. These are the 7 prisoners. In this case, keep in mind we didn't plan originally to have these guys, but since we found these minis laying around, we thought, why not use them? They are nice. They are civilians, so it gives us a nice idea. Again, in this case, we didn't have enough German vehicles to stand in, because we had many to be used on table number 2. So basically, this Jeep proxies as the Kubelwagen, and the other 2 transports. Of course, this should be an Opel Blitz. This should be a Hanomag or equivalent. This, of course, is the VIP, and these are the British commandos, the platoon commander, and the other 3 units in this case. These are painted by Paolo. Very nice minis. He's a very good painter, and he basically, the first time we tried the scenario, he used the British paratroopers, but since he just finished painting his commandos, he was keen on using them, and so of course, why not? By the way, notice this as a German MG, because it's considered having a Vickers Model K, so we modeled it as a stolen German weapon. This is the table number 2 forces. Again, we had to proxy some. This is actually it was a veteran Panzer IV with heavy anti-tank gun. This was an SDK FZ 250/10, the command vehicle with a medium anti-tank, and this was a Panzer III. This is the Recce platoon. We have a Kubelwagen with the officer, 2 Hanomags. They all had units inside, as well as an Opel Blitz. Again, all 3 of these units carried actual troopers. One was filled with veterans, and the other 2 were filled with regulars, if I recall correctly. Okay, these are of course the troops that ran inside the transports, and these are the American defenders. In this case, the American player used 2 rifle platoons. Platoon number 1 with platoon commander, a medic, 2 combat squads, and a bazooka, and a rifle platoon number 2. Again, this is the patrol, the HQ unit, 2 units of veteran. Remember, all defender troops are veteran in this scenario, and another bazooka for a grand total of 2 bazookas. This is the initial setup of table number 1. Actually, I was playing as the German player in this scenario, so I had placed my 4 groups of guards. Remember, one group has to start inside the perimeter of the base. The other 3 have to start outside. What I decided to do is I decided that the VIP was inside this building. The captured partisans were inside this building, and the 2 guards units were inside these 2 buildings. Of course, remember that the attacker does not know what is where. This is all of a secret. Of course, the attacker might expect the VIP to be inside this building, but you are by no means obligated to make the most obvious choice. So, you know, there is a sort of mind game you can possibly play. This was the setup for table number 2. We have a couple of pictures. Basically, the defender, the American player, decided to go with a rather forward approach. So you can see the 2 bazooka units laying here in ambush, while the most other men were around here. Again, we have more pictures. This is the first bazooka, second bazooka, and all other troops laying in wait. Basically, the plan for the defender in this scenario was to force the initial engagement around here, basically prevent the Germans from going inside the village and somehow force them along this path down here. Again, another view of table number 2. This is after turn 1 on table number 1. So I don't remember who moved which group of guards. I think I moved these ones in this direction, and maybe this one I pulled them here. I think I lost the roll-off for these 2 units, and of course the attacker decided to suddenly feel them have the urge to go look somewhere else. Again, I'm saying this again, keep in mind that this is a narrative scenario first and foremost, so just have fun. This is what's important, and try to do things that look cool, not necessarily things that are the best. At least this is my personal advice, as a rule of thumb, actually. Again, another this is the opposite side of the table, so 1 unit entered from here, the second from here, the third and the commanding officer, they entered from here. So if you play as the German in this table, again, I'll be very straightforward, it can feel a little bit frustrating because you move very little things, your units are crap. Don't mind that. Don't play with that mindset. Play with having in mind the goal of telling a nice story. Okay, this should be the way I advise you to play this scenario. This was turn 1 on table number 2 as the column enters the fray. Again, just as an example, keep in mind that this was a playtest. So in the beginning we made the whole column enter the fray, but it made no sense because basically they already started halfway through the table, so we came up with the decision of making them just enter piecemeal, basically. Again, I find this interesting because if you are playing with like-minded people, you know, you start playing and you think, okay, no, this does not make sense, let's change things on the fly. This is the whole point behind a playtest, right? So don't be afraid to change things. If you want to try this scenario, which of course I encourage you to do, feel free to change whatever you don't like. Again, my goal, once we have completed, again, let's say 100% of the play testing, I would like to put everything on a nice PDF file, possibly upload it to a to Google Drive, and allow everyone to download it for their own leisure, because again, sharing is fun. And so if you happen to try one or more of these scenarios, of course, leave comments. Feel free to comment, even if you don't play, just what do you think. Turn number 2. So again, this is a very, very quick after action report. The attackers are moving closer to the fence in order to start plucking holes. You will see that this unit is getting very, very close to these attacking units. The alarm does not sound just yet, but because the attacking player has a plan. All other stuff moves randomly. Again, the sniper is here. He does not have his dice in the bag yet. He's just checking that everything is fine along this front. And on this front, everything is fine. Everything is great. So he's having the time of his life, actually. Again, from the other side. So, what was the plan of the British player? So his plan was to basically hope that he gets the first activation die and assault this unit. More likely than not, wipe them out. I think there are like 3 or 4 SMGs in both of these units, so it should be, piece of cake. And his reasoning was, yeah, I will hopefully get the first dice, and I mean, what could go wrong? Meanwhile, on the other table, turn number 2, likewise, the ambush is sprung, the first bazooka shoots, and it blows to pieces the first vehicle. Again, during the turn, the ambush is sprung. The Germans remain in column. They basically don't act yet. Only from the next turn they get to move independently as normal bolt action rules. Alright, so this is turn number 3. And so, I'm hearing you say, look, so why does the English player decide to open fire on some mooks here? Well, there's a reason, because this was not the first activation of the turn, actually. As you see, there are many order dice already on the field, because the first thing that happened in the turn is happening here. If you remember, at the end of turn 2, this patrol was getting close to the other squad here. Here this token shows where there's a hole in the fence. So what happened is the Germans get the first dice. We roll off. I roll first and I roll a 1. My opponent breathes a sigh of relief. He needs to basically roll a 2+. He will make the unit basically remain where they are, and on his next activation he will charge them, massacre them, and move on with his life. Needless to say, he rolls a 1. So, in case of a draw, the German players gets to move the unit. So, of course, I move the patrol towards the attackers. So they get within 6 inches, they spot the enemy, and immediately start firing. Remember, these are inexperienced troops, so they manage a single pin, not more. And then, when the British gets its dice and activates this unit. He rolls a double 6. And the whole 8-man unit of big, strong veterans foobar and flee out of the table. This made us laugh so hard because it made no sense, but it was just so funny. We even considered the fact that in this scenario attackers wouldn't be subject to the foobar rules, but in the end it's unlikely, but it's that kind of, unlikeness that makes things more interesting. So in the end we decided to leave it at that, and so it was with great shame that one of the big units of special troops, of British special troops, leaves the field in shame at the beginning of turn 3 while the alarm is raised. And since the alarm is raised, in the next turn, from the 2 barracks where they were hiding, some guards immediately rush out. From these barracks, there are 7 of them because I rolled a 4. From the other barracks, I rolled a 3, so there are just 6 men then that run out. Here we managed to kill quite a lot of the attackers, actually. Here these inexperienced basically keep dying when the British commander start mowing them down. Another unit is completely eradicated by this unit here after they opened another entrance in the net. These other troops have entered the compound from the hole they punched the earlier turn, and they start mowing down the unit that was around here. So all hell breaks loose at table number 1. So you can see some of the carnage of the poor sentinels being blasted to pieces. This is outside the perimeter. Again, sentinels being pounded to death by these scary Englishmen. Again, this was yet another patrol units being massacred by these very angry men. I am rushing all the defenders to try and stem the bleeding, so to speak, but no, not to much avail. Meanwhile, now here I had to go out for a little bit, so I lost a whole turn. But basically, the German officer did leave the Kubelwagen back here and was gunned down by someone. The Opel Blitz still has troops on it as it tries to make a run for it. A second SDK FZ is exploded by the bazooka. By the way, notice here that the Panzer IV failed to eliminate completely this bazooka unit, a decision he will come to regret very soon. Meanwhile, the other bazooka has been killed, I think, by the Panzer III, and the other SDK, he was loaded with men. They were charged by one of the units of paratroopers, and in a vicious round of hand-to-hand combat, the American sergeant was the only the one man still standing at the end of the fight. Meanwhile, American troopers are trying basically to screen the road to avoid giving the Germans an easy way out. Again, this is the same thing from a slightly different angle. This same turn, same situation. More Americans. That is his point. They realize that they must prevent this Opel Blitz from escaping. The Kubelwagen gets eliminated because he's closest to other troopers that are here, so it's automatically eliminated because there is no one on board of it, because the commander died somewhere around here, I think. And basically at this point the American commanders decides that there's no point for these infantries to remain here facing the Panzer IV, and it goes basically all in on this side to block this escape route. All right, back in the encampment, you see magically the Kubelwagen has returned to its rightful place after being destroyed on table number 2. So guards are rushing in, but as you can see here, all the regular guards here have been gunned down, and most of the guards here have been gunned down as well, with the loss, I think, of just two veterans here. Again, keep in mind that this is perfectly normal. The attackers will have the advantage on this table. It's normal, is by design. Same situation. I decided to leave the dead on the ground for dramatic effect. Alright, more time passes on the other table. The Opel Blitz has made the recce move that almost allows him to go outside of the table. It has 3 pins though, because it has been shot during its during its movement, because it's been shot from here. Then these troopers entered the woods and fired, etc., etc. So it won't be easy to go out. Meanwhile, the Panzer III is pushing hard, as is the last Hanomag standing. Same situation. Here you can notice how the Panzer IV, the failure of the Panzer IV in destroying the bazooka team will prove his undoing. In this case, he has been crew stunned, I think. He starts racking up the pins and everything starts going downhill from there. Spoiler. Again, this is one more turn in the at table number 1. The last survivor of this patrol flees after failing a morale check. I think a Fubert here. No, he had to roll because he lost 80% of the unit. He failed the roll and said, "Alright, I'm gone." All guards here are massacred. So at this point in the fight, the only troops I have alive are one singular inexperienced guy here, 2 inexperienced guy outside here, and the sniper on the tower. So 1 here, 2, 3, and the sniper 4. Just this. No more pictures. No more pictures. So basically what happened in the end, like in the next turn, the I lost all over the space of a span of, I think, like 2 turns. I lost all of my guys. So in the end, the VIP was out of the camp, I think, on turn 9. On the other table, let me just check. I thought I had a couple more pictures actually. Yeah, there are a couple more. So over the next turns, the Opel Blitz is destroyed, and the troopers fall down. This and they get killed. I can't remember by whom. For reasons at this point, no, these went out from the wreck of this Opel Blitz. I think the occupants of this SDK went down and died earlier on. So, well, basically, the only to make things short and to start wrapping up the video, which is actually has been going on for 1 hour and a half, so way more than I originally planned to. But this is the beauty of live recording. Basically, in the end, the only German vehicle who made it out of the battlefield was the Panzer III, while Panzer IV gets demolished little by little by the American bazooka. This is where all Germans died on table 1. So we start to move to the end game. In the end, the Germans had a 2-turn advantage on their interception roll, because actually the fact that the attackers on table 1 lost a full unit on turn 3 made them lose way more time than usual in dealing with the rabble in the camp. So the Germans had 2 turns advantage. They could make 2 rolls of 6+. If they succeeded in any of those rolls, they would have secured victory. They failed. Then the VIP escapes. At this point, there is no point in keeping on playing on table number 2, because there was not a chance for any other German vehicle to exit the table edge. So it was the German player keep rolling 6s, while the American player slowly started to get an advantage. So on the turn number 11, it was a 6. The first roll on a 6+ for the Americans' extraction. They failed. The Germans failed as well. Second turn on a 6+, fail. Germans fail. And then finally, the Americans hit their first 5+ roll. And the game ends with the image of the American general reaching the small stork or another small craft, whatever you want, and finally leaving for safety. So this is it, basically. Again, keep in mind that this was a playtesting game, but I think it helps you, give you the idea behind the scenario. We all had fun. It was tense on all sides, and again, I encourage you to try. If you don't want to try this, try another one. Try funky stuff. It's fun. It's good fun. It's the best. It's actually the best kind of fun you can have. And I leave a comment if you wish. I would be curious to hear what you have to say. Again, keep in mind that my plan is to eventually upload the official PDF rules for this mission. Actually, I think we'll make it both in both an Italian PDF and an English PDF. So just to satisfy all tastes. And this is it for today. I hope you enjoyed this new kind of video. I really wanted to release this, even though, again, it's a work in progress, despite the fact it's like 90% complete, because I thought it would be interesting to share with you the reasoning behind the building of a scenario. Again, the scenario can be played just between you and a single friend when you play at both tables simultaneously. You can play in 3 people. One is using the Germans on tables 1 and 2. Player number 2 is using the British or the Americans or whatever on table 1, and the defenders on table number 2. Or you can play with 4 people, each one 2 people at each table, whatever else you want. Again, the important is to have fun. Keep in mind, I will say this for the last time, this is a narrative scenario. The important is not to win, it's important to have fun and to do something different from usual. Again, I think this is it for today. I wish you a very special, a very good weekend. Thank you for being here. If you were so nice or so crazy to follow all the live. If this goes well, I might do other live other videos like this one in the future. I already have in this perverted mind of mine to do something similar with Operation Market Garden, which again, that is a campaign, a narrative campaign I'm working on to make my friends play it. I've almost completed the development. I will have to do some playtest, but then again, maybe it might be interesting to some of you to see things as they are being developed, in order to possibly appreciate the differences between now and then, what has changed in the meantime, just the thought process behind. And if you have tales of your campaigns, of your scenarios, of course, feel free to follow, because I would love to hear about that. All right, I spoke enough for today. Once again, thank you for watching this video. Have a good time, have a great time, have a great weekend, have a great life, be safe, and as usual, ciao ciao.